On today's show, who says no? Let's play a game. We've put together a bunch of fake trades. I've got Greg Swartz of Bleacher Report with me. We're going to find out who says no on this edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. You can help grow the show. Subscribe on YouTube. Give this video a like. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, whatever it is. Give us a 5-star review. Drop a review as well. Leave a comment on YouTube. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, free on YouTube as well. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. I'm Danny Cunningham. You know me from covering the Cavs at places such as 92.3 The Fan, Cleveland Magazine, and formerly at ESPN Cleveland. Joined today by a friend of mine, longtime NBA writer, and of course, the author of a Wine and Gold winner, The Best Moments of the Cleveland Cavaliers 2016 championship run, Greg Swartz. Greg, thanks for doing this. Really appreciate you taking the time to jump on Locked On Cavs.
Yeah. I'm honored to be one of your first guests on here. I see Spencer beat me, but that's okay. I'm all right with that. He deserves it. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Just how the timing worked out, man. But today, what you and I have done is we have gone through and, I know that there have been reports that have come out that the Cavs are trending towards wanting to keep together the core four. That is something that I don't know exactly how you feel about that. That's something where I will believe that when late October rolls around and all four of those guys are in the starting lineup next year for the Cavs. That's when I'll believe it actually happens. But we're going to operate here today that's not going to be the case, that the Cavs are going to be a team that's one of the more interesting ones this offseason, that's going to pull the trigger or attempt to pull the trigger on a pretty big trade. So what we've done, you've put together 3 trades. I've put together 3 trades. We're going to pull them up. We're going to talk about who do we think says no, because it takes 2 sides to make a deal happen. So I want to start with one of yours first, Greg. And it's a guy that I've talked a lot about so far on the show, and that's Mikal Bridges. For me, he is a dream target for the Cavs to acquire this offseason. You put together the trade. Cavs receive Mikal Bridges. The Brooklyn Nets received Darius Garland and the number 20 overall draft pick, meaning that this trade would happen on draft night coming up June 26th is when this trade could actually happen. So talk me through your thinking, why you thought this made sense.
Yeah, Mikal Bridges is my number 1 target for the Cavaliers. I know there's a lot of guys that have been floated out there, the Brandon Ingrams of the world, and a lot of guys make sense. But for me, if I'm the Cavs, I want more help on the wing. I want guys who can knock down shots. I want the guys that can play elite defense and guys who are tough. And if you add in playoff experience, that's great too. And just Mikal Bridges just checks every one of these boxes. And you add in the fact that he's only making about $24–25 million a year for the next 2 years. He's under one of the best contracts in the entire NBA. So I don't know why the Nets would trade him. I think they're going to get a lot of offers for him. The Nets are in this weird position, but I think that Darius Garland and a first-round pick is a pretty strong offer. Would they get better than that from a team like the Houston Rockets? I think they could. But if you're looking at from Cleveland's point of view, if you trade Darius, you're essentially saying, all right, we're cool with Donovan Mitchell playing point guard full time. We're going to have a bigger starting lineup because now Max Strus is going to be your 2 guard. Mikal Bridges is going to be your 3. If you keep the rest of the roster intact, you've got Evan and Jarrett as the 4 and 5. You've got a big lineup now. And especially if your front line is Bridges, Mobley, and Allen, you are elite defensively. I really like that. If you're swapping out Darius Garland for Mikal Bridges defensively, that's a huge upgrade. So I really like that. I think salary-wise, that really helps the Cavs a lot too. This trade, it's about $10 million difference in salary. Why does that matter for the Cavs? They're only about $10 million projected to be below that luxury tax line. So that gives you the chance to not only bring back Isaac Okoro, but now you can use at least a hefty chunk of that mid-level exception as well. So if you want to stay on the luxury tax, you want to add a premier defender. For me, I think this is a no-brainer. If the Nets would say yes to this, I would do this in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And I think that the biggest question I have is, what direction does Brooklyn want to go? Because, there were rumors that they had offers on the table for Bridges at this past trade deadline this season. And now it just feels like that franchise is in a really weird place. Like, I don't see an avenue moving forward for them to be competitive within the next 2 or 3 years, which, is not the entirety of Bridges' contract, but it's close to it. And I also wonder how many players out there, because if Bridges becomes available, like you said, they're going to get a ton of offers from him. He's going to be one of the most sought after guys this entire offseason all across the NBA. But how many all-stars are going to be offered for him? Because I think a lot of the teams that are going to be interested in Bridges are going to be offering very trade asset heavy packages, and the Cavs can't do that. They're not in the position to be able to do that. But I don't know how many players out there are better than Darius Garland, even coming off of a bad year, that would be offered for a player like Bridges. That, I think, to me, is the biggest question. If one of these two teams were to say no, I do think it would be the Nets, though. I don't think that this is a trade that the Cavs would say no to if it's on the table.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think Brooklyn will get better offers than this. We know that Memphis was interested in the past. Houston was interested in the past. I think Shams Charania reported right before the deadline that, Houston was willing to give up Jalen Green and first-round picks. And that's a good offer. That's a really good offer, especially the way he played down the stretch. So I guess my argument for Brooklyn and why they should take the deal, Garland's under contract for 4 more years. You have a little bit more team control. Bridges has 2 more years, so he's an unrestricted free agent. He's probably not going to extend off the deal that he's at because it's so low. I think he's going to go into unrestricted free agency. So you could maybe pitch the Nets on, look, you have team control over Garland for the next 4 years. A guy that's a couple years younger. He's been an all-star. He could thrive, especially in a big market. You put him and Cam Thomas in your backcourt, I think that's pretty good. But I agree with you. I think, the Cavs would say yes. Brooklyn would probably say, we could probably get a better offer. So, but yeah, this would be my dream trade scenario.
And I do think one of the other selling points that you could give to the Nets here is that they're sort of buying low on a guy, to where Darius Garland's value, certainly, 12 months ago, if you look back at what it was last June, it's much higher than it is right now, just because there's not really a nice way to say that he just had a nightmare of a season with everything that he went through, the fractured jaw, losing all the weight, and then he was just kind of a shell of himself after that. I think that there's a lot of room there for him to grow, and I think he's a guy that, even though I don't know how likely it is he gets moved this offseason from the Cavs, I certainly wouldn't put him as the most likely guy to get traded. But I think he's someone that you could convince other teams, hey, this guy is a big, he's an all-star caliber player, and he could really, really use a change of scenery to some extent. Like, I do think that could be a selling point there. And he's someone that I think, in the situation in Brooklyn that it would be, I think he could thrive there, and I think he could really start to revitalize his career after a really bad year.
Yeah, I agree. Come on, Brooklyn. Let's do it. Let's get it done.
Yeah, I'm fascinated to see. I do wonder too, what if you added on to this trade a little bit? Like, what would it look like if you wanted to get Dorian Finney-Smith from the Nets too? What else do you think the Cavs would have to throw in? Like, I wonder, does Darius Garland and send Karis LeVert back to Brooklyn where he started his career? Does that work? Like, I wonder if there could be more to this trade than just really, it's not a 1-for-1. You threw in a first-round pick there, but I do wonder if there could be more to it too.
I had like 5 variations of this trade when this was the simplest version because you put trades together, they get a little. I had a 3-team trade with Chicago where Zach LaVine was going to go to Brooklyn. Ben Simmons' expiring contract was going to go to Chicago. The Cavs are going to end up with Alex Caruso. Like, I had like 14 variations of this. I just thought, okay, let's keep it simple first. But yeah, if Brooklyn was like, hey, I'm interested in, shedding a little bit more salary. We have to re-sign Nick Claxton. Would they send back a guy like Dorian Finney-Smith? Would they send a guy back like a Dennis Schroeder? Especially if they're going to point guard and Garland. So yeah, there's all different ways. I'd take Cam Johnson. there's a lot of guys on the Nets I would take. But yeah, this was just the simplest version that I can make.
Well, I can tell you the Bulls would say no to that because they just want to be mediocre. So I think that it's kind of pointless to put them in. No. They don't want to get, and they don't want to get worse either. They want to win 38 games every year for the rest of the time. That is what the Chicago Bulls want.
That's what they're going to do next year if they don't do anything. So
it is incredible. We've got another one, Dejounte Murray in Cleveland. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Game time makes getting NBA Finals tickets easier. You might be running out of time with the Finals. This might not be the longest series between Dallas and Boston, but if you want to get in the door, Game Time is the place to go. Prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer you get to tip-off. So if you're looking for those last-minute deals, Game Time is the place to go. They've got killer last-minute deals. They display all-in prices, a really, really helpful function on Game Time. They'll show you the view from your seat. That, I think, is something that's super underrated when using their app. Also, they've got a lowest price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. I'm someone, obviously, I'm not buying NBA tickets. I'm going to games with a credential. I'm covering them. I am going to baseball games, though. Game Time is my go-to app. If I want to go watch the Cleveland Guardians, pull up Game Time on my phone, check out what the ticket prices are going for, get in the door for a great deal. Game Time has you covered. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. That's LOCKEDONNBA, LOCKEDON, NBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. So the next deal that you pitched to me, or if you put on your Kobe Altman hat and were in charge, Greg, of trying to better the Cavs, you decided that you wanted to see Dejounte Murray and Bogdanovich in Cleveland, sending away Karis LeVert and Darius Garland from the Cavs. This is a 3-team deal. San Antonio Spurs are also involved in this. So Garland goes to the Spurs. Karis LeVert, Trey Jones from San Antonio, and Keldon Johnson, they all go to the Hawks. Plus, the Hawks get their own picks back from the original Dejounte Murray trade that they sent to San Antonio. And the Cavs get Dejounte Murray and Bogdanovich. Why do you think this makes sense for everybody involved?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to see, Landry Fields on the phone with the Spurs being like, I want my picks back, all of them. Just to, recreate draft day. I think that'd be awesome. No, I mean, we've seen rumors for the Spurs have been interested in Darius Garland. I think Darius makes a lot of sense there. They struggled with point guard. Trey Jones actually was number 4 in the NBA in swing rating. He had a swing rating of almost 15. That's how much points per 100 possessions he improved them. So just having any sort of point guard on the floor was big for them. So if you replace Trey Jones with Darius Garland, I just think that's a home run for the San Antonio Spurs. So let's talk about Cleveland's side of this. Dejounte Murray is a guy I've liked for a long time. I liked him when he was in San Antonio the first time. He was a guy that I thought could have been a backcourt fit even before we got Donovan Mitchell. So I like him even more now because of the contract he's on. I thought for sure he was a guy. He is. Oh my gosh. I mean, he averages about $24-25 million a season over the next 4 years. If you think
it's one of the best deals in basketball, it really is.
I can't believe he signed it. I thought for sure he was going to unrestricted free agency. I mean, that was the fear for San Antonio, was they weren't going to be able to re-sign him. They changed the CBA where he could sign for 140% instead of 120. I was still surprised he took the deal off after that. So if you want a guy, especially if, ideal world, you have Donovan Mitchell on a max contract, you're bringing back Evan Mobley, possibly on a max contract. Roster's going to get expensive. If you get an all-star caliber talent like Dejounte Murray, who's just entering his prime, is an elite defender. He's not a great three-point shooter, but he's gotten better. He's a good passer. I just think you plug him in the backcourt with Donovan Mitchell. You're bigger. You're better defensively. Your overall shooting probably takes a little bit of a hit, but I will trade that, especially his contract is so much better than Darius Garland's. I would love Dejounte Murray. And then you get Bogdanovich, one of the best 6 men in the NBA. I think he finished 5th in 6 Man of the Year voting this year. Averaged about 17 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists. He's a guy you can shoot. He shoots between about 37-40% from 3. just your ideal six man. He's everything that I want Caris LeVert to be, but Caris LeVert has never been. And I would that's an upgrade as your six man as well. So, you can make the argument Garland is the best player in the trade, maybe if he hits his peak. But
I think he's got the highest ceiling. Like I think that's where
yes.
I don't think to date he's been the best player. Certainly wasn't the best player in this deal last season.
Right.
But I think like if everyone reaches their full potential, the Spurs are the team that's coming out of this with the best player. Like I think that's probably the fairest way to look at this.
That's exactly how I meant to put it. Yeah, I think if we look back in like 2 or 3 years and Garland's making all-star teams and averaging 25 points and 8 assists, playing for Popovich, like I won't be surprised. Like good for them.
And helps Wemby become an MVP.
Yeah. I think that's a great deal for the Spurs too. So. We have a starting point guard, a new starting point guard in Dejounte Murray, a new six man in Bogdanovich. I just think that's an upgrade in 2 positions there as of like right now. For Atlanta, I just think they got to split up Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. I don't see how you can run both of those guys back. Trae Young is obviously the more talented of the two. He's the guy that I still think maybe you try to build around, and in this trade lets them keep that. The other thing about Atlanta is they're getting very expensive very fast.
Very quick.
Yes. And with this trade, I know Murray's on a great contract, but if you move his deal and you move Bogdanovich's deal, Caris LeVert is on an expiring contract. That's going to save you some money. Trey Jones is on an expiring deal. That's going to save you some money. And Keldon Johnson has a contract that actually goes down a couple $1 million each year. So you're basically getting yourself back into good financial shape if you're the Hawks. Now you can give Jalen Johnson a big extension if you want to. You've got Trae Young. He's going to need a super max deal most likely coming up. It's going to get very expensive. So this deal kind of eases that financial burden on Atlanta. They get their first round picks back in 25 and 27, which is huge for them because if they stink next year, if Trae Young has an injury, that pick no longer goes to San Antonio, which is great. You got that first overall pick in the draft coming back this year. I just think it's a chance for Atlanta to reset their roster. The Cavs have they upgrade their perimeter defense, they upgrade their bench, and the Spurs get a franchise point guard, Darius Garland. I just think it works for all 3 teams.
I think so too. I wonder, and I do think that if there's actually a team that says no to this, it might be the Spurs, just because I'm not sure that they would want to give up Keldon Johnson, Trae Jones, who I do really, really like Trae Jones's game. I think he's a very underrated player. And then 2 first-round picks for 1 player. Like, I just wonder if they feel as if they could find a better fit. Like, what if San Antonio is sitting there? And I'm not saying that this necessarily makes as much sense for them because I don't like this pairing as much for the Spurs. But how would they feel if they could say, we could just trade all of that stuff and get Trae Young, who is not coming off of the year that Darius Garland is having, who would be, I think, a pretty good fit with Victor Wembanyama, even though I think Trae is a little bit overrated as a player. So I wonder if the Spurs here, Greg, in this situation would be the team that says no, just because they're giving up so much for 1 player. Like, I do wonder if that's the situation. I think it upgrades the Cavs, adding more perimeter defense with Dejounte Murray, a great 6-man option in Bogdanovich. I like all that for the Cavs. I like this for the Hawks too, because they could pull this off and then they could also turn around and just say, hey, you know what? We've got all of our assets back now. Now might be the time, if we don't believe that Trae Young is a building block of a team that can win a championship, that's when they could blow it up too. This could put the Hawks in a situation to actually have a good, healthy rebuild. That's something that I think is an interesting, underrated aspect of this deal.
Yeah, I thought about that, and I had different variations where, the Spurs have the number 4, number 8 overall pick in the draft, like them sending one of those maybe instead of a future pick or, some sort of variation. But yeah, you make a great point because, we talk about when Atlanta got the number 1 overall pick in the draft, a lot of people are like, will they rebuild? Will they trade Trae Young? Well, they can't do that because they don't have the first round pick next year. This trade would get them their pick back. So it gives them that flexibility, like you said. So yeah, I think it makes sense for Atlanta. If you're San Antonio, maybe you're like, well, we'll give you 25, but we won't give you 27. There's definitely some haggling that could be done.
Yeah, I think that's probably where this one gets held up, but I do like that deal. Greg, you've got one more deal. It's the big one. It's bringing LeBron home. We'll talk about that next right here on Locked On Cavs. Today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. With Prize Picks, you could turn $10 into $1,000 in one single game watching your favorite sports this summer. You can make Prize Picks a Prize Picks lineup as little as 60 seconds. You just need to pick more or less on between 2 and 6 players' stat projections. Not difficult to figure out. I'm confident you can handle it. You do that, you're locked in, and you can win some serious money. If you're looking for promotions, Prize Picks got you covered each and every week. They lower select players' stat projections on Tuesdays. On Fridays, you can get your entry fees back if you put together a losing lineup. We don't want losing lineups. We want winning lineups. But if you do have an unfortunate day on Friday, you can get your entry fee back. Prize Picks is America's #1 fantasy sports app. Over 5 million active members. 5 million active members. That's a ton. Get in on the daily action with your friends and become part of the Prize Picks community today. Download the app today. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA. That's LOCKEDONNBA for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks. Pick more. Pick less. It's that easy. So, Greg, the last deal you put together for today's Locked On Cavs, and we will get to the 3 deals that I put together. This is going to be a 2-part episode. So this one's coming out Thursday, Friday. We got 3 more trades. Who says no? You don't want to miss that. But the last deal, Greg, that you put together, it's a 2-for-1. It's a simple one. It's one that I think would make just about every Cavs fan in the world ecstatic. The Cavs receive LeBron James. The Lakers receive Darius Garland and Karis LeVert. Who says no?
I don't think it would make every Cavs fan happy. I think there's a lot of Cavs. Really?
I think
a lot of Cavs fans are like, we're good on LeBron. But one thing that I've been surprised about, just kind of monitoring, taking the pulse of NBA franchises and their fan base, a lot of Lakers fans aren't in on LeBron anymore. I'm kind of surprised because he's still their best player. He's still their best chance at winning a championship. Like, yeah, you gotta get one more piece, but this man brought you a title, and they still have not embraced him over there. I'm like, okay, like he's been pretty good for you. Maybe you should appreciate him a little bit more. But all right, anyways, I'll say this: I don't think this is going to happen. I don't think LeBron is going to opt in, and I don't think they're going to work this out. It would be interesting because Rich Paul, represents both these guys. Maybe he'd be happy getting Darius, get his star to shine a little brighter in Los Angeles. The LeBron homecoming, maybe that's some Clutch lights. I don't know. But I think LeBron is ultimately going to opt out, sign a 3-year deal, get that $160 million and that no trade clause from Los Angeles. I think that's what he does. I don't think he opts in and does this. But if he did, I've seen variations where it's like LeBron for Donovan Mitchell. I'm not trading Donovan Mitchell for a 39-year-old LeBron James. I'm not trading Evan Mobley for him.
The Cavs say no on that too. That, the Cavs would say if the Lakers called the Cavs and said, "Hey, we know you think Donovan's going to resign, but we'll trade you LeBron for Donovan Mitchell." The Cavs are saying no to that, and part of that is they're very confident Donovan's going to resign and be in Cleveland long term. But Donovan's the better player right now. I truly do believe that.
Well, if you want to get Donovan excited and motivated to stay in Cleveland, why not bring LeBron freaking James back?
Right.
So yeah, let's talk lineup for a second. You got Donovan at point guard. Obviously, LeBron's going to do a lot of playmaking there. Max Strus is your 2, LeBron's your 3, Evan Mobley's your 4, Jarrett's your 5. A pretty good lineup. That's a pretty good lineup, especially LeBron. He's going to be 40 in December. He doesn't have to be the primary offensive option anymore. Donovan Mitchell can still be your 28 to 30 point per game scorer if he wants to be. LeBron, we know he doesn't really play defense in the regular season anymore. Good news, you've got Evan Mobley and Jarrett Allen behind you. And I think you can go small if you want to. When one of your bigs needs a break, LeBron shifts down to the 4. You can play Evan or Jarrett at the 5, taking turns there. And then you play more wings. Let's say you re-sign Isaac Okoro. You have Dean Wade. So I like this. I don't think it's realistic because I don't think LeBron's going to give up that extra money that he could sign on a 3-year deal with the Lakers. But I think this makes sense. I think the Lakers, if they, kind of sense that LeBron's maybe not quite as happy there, that he's thinking about retirement in a year or two, this is a way for you to get, a 24-year-old all-star point guard that's going to look really good in the pick and roll with an Anthony Davis. So, LeBron could put pressure on him to get this done. If LeBron wants to go to Cleveland, he could put pressure on him and say, listen, you could orchestrate this trade, or I could leave you as a free agent, go sign in Philly or somewhere else and get my max deal. So pressure from LeBron would help get this done. But it's just a fun scenario. I don't think it's going to ultimately.
Right. I think, Greg, the only way this gets done is with pressure from LeBron. The Lakers are saying no to this in a heartbeat. Like, they're not picking up the phone on this type of deal right now. And I do think that part of the LeBron situation, the only avenue I think for him to be back in Cleveland, I don't think it's picking up the option and getting traded to the Cavs. I think it would have to be something along the lines of a sign and trade. It's something you have to think about. LeBron has never been part of like a real trade in his career. When he was sent to Miami, like, it was a sign and trade and the Cavs got picks back. But he's not ever been traded on while he's like been under contract. And I don't think that that's necessarily something he would be all that interested in. I think he wants to at all times have all the power, and he has done that for his entire career. And I don't think that this situation's any different. So I think that the only avenue to get this done is for it to be a sign and trade. Which it would be incredible. It would light this city on fire. It would be remarkable what it would do. And he's still a really great player. I don't know that that gets talked about as often as it should, because now we're at the point where we're talking about how he's the oldest guy to ever do these things. And it's not just that he's the oldest guy to ever do these things. It's that, say he's the oldest guy to score X number of points in the game. Well, or average X number of points, and like the next closest is like 15 points per game away. Like that is, it's ridiculous. That's the level of play he is still at. But that said, I don't think the Lakers are saying yes to this. I think that this is a deal that they're not trading LeBron unless LeBron comes to them and says, hey, it's been great. Maybe not what I thought it would be, but it's been great. I want to go back to Cleveland, or I want to go to City X. Let's work out a sign and trade. Like, I really think that's the only avenue in which he leaves LA. But, I would never shut the door on another reunion with LeBron and the Cavs. I just wouldn't.
Well, I'll say two things to that point. This trade still works if it's a sign and trade, because salary-wise, it still lines up with Karras making 16, Darius making 36. That still works in a sign and trade. The Cavs will be hard capped at the first apron for receiving a player in a sign and trade. I don't think it's a big deal. They can still go in the luxury tax. The first apron's about $10 million above that. So you could still use your mid-level exception. You could still bring back Isaac Okoro if you're willing to pay the tax, but you would have to be like, well, we absolutely cannot go over the first apron now. The second part, the only reason that gives me a little bit of hope, because you're like, well, the Lakers would say no, and they would, if LeBron doesn't put pressure. And there was that report right before the trade deadline, or after the trade deadline, that the Warriors called about a LeBron trade, and Jeannie Buss and ownership went to LeBron to ask his opinion on it. They didn't just immediately say no. They talked to Rich Paul. They talked to LeBron. They got his feelings, because Jeannie Buss said that it was reported that she does not want to have an unhappy superstar in Los Angeles. So they do care about his feelings. They do care about his opinion. That's all I'll say about it.
And I will add to that. I think that there are a lot of things with that organization out in Los Angeles with the Lakers right now that are not all that healthy, that are not all that great. But the one thing that I do think that you have to give them credit for is they have always taken care of their stars. They've always taken care of their stars. They gave Kobe that contract at the end of his career that he certainly was, his on-court play at that point was not worth nearly what he was getting paid. They have always made it a point to take care of their stars. I do think that if, teams are calling about LeBron, they're going to ask him. It very well could be a no, but I think that question will get asked to him. They're going to do right by him, I think, organizationally. I don't know that the fans quite feel all that same, but I think organizationally the Lakers want to do right by him, Greg.
I agree.
That's episode 1. We've got part 2 coming tomorrow. We've got 3 more trades to get to you. He's Greg Swartz. I'm Danny Cunningham. You can find him on Twitter at GregSwartzBR, longtime NBA writer at Bleacher Report. Also, go online, buy his short story, his book, a wine and gold winner, the best moments from the Cleveland Cavaliers 2016 championship. I cannot believe how long it's been since then, but go pick that up. You can find that on his Twitter at Greg Swartz BR. I'm Danny Cunningham. You can find me on Twitter at RealDCunningham. Thank you for making Locked On Cavs your first listen every day. A great episode tomorrow. 3 more trades. You don't want to miss these. Some tough ones to find out who's going to say no, but we've got more of those coming for you tomorrow right here on Locked On Cavs.